Welcome to this Arnall-Culliford knitwear tutorial on working decreases in brioche stitch. This tutorial is part of our Boost Your Knitting series, 12 projects to teach you 12 new techniques from the world's best knitting designers. If you'd like to find out more about Boost Your Knitting, do click the link up here which will take you over to our website. This is Carol Feller's beautiful flying leaves scarf, which is worked in brioche stitch, and the stitch pattern uses a combination of decreases and increases to create this lovely chevron shape. In the following tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to work both the left and right leaning decreases that this project uses, and I hope you'll find them useful in other brioche projects too. How to work a deck 2L decrease. This is a left leaning decrease used in brioche knitting because you decrease away 2 stitches and you need to do everything in pairs in brioche knitting. So we've just worked a slip yarn over, and the next stitch on our needles is at the top of a knit column in the dark coloured yarn. We're going to slip this stitch with its yarn over knitwise. So we insert the needle tip into the stitch as if to knit, and then remove the left needle tip so it's slipped. We're now going to work a knit 2 together, and we're going to be knitting together the next stitch and the one after it, which has a yarn over. So remember, you always count that as a whole stitch. So I'm going to put my right needle tip into both of those, making sure I've caught all 3 strands of yarn. I'm now going to knit them together, and then I'm going to use my left needle tip into that second stitch on the right needle. That's the one I slipped, and I'm going to lift it over the stitch I've just worked and off the needle tip. And you can see that the decrease leans to the left and it decreases away the next column of knit stitch as well as the purl in between, and leaves us with our alternating knit purl columns. I'll walk you through that one more time. So we've worked a slip yarn over. We're going to put the right needle tip into that first stitch and its yarn over as if to knit, and we're slipping it. And then we're going to knit together the next stitch on the needle and the one next to it along with the yarn over. So that's 3 strands of yarn. Wrap your dark yarn around, pull through, so you've done your knit 2 together, and then use your left needle tip into that second stitch, the slipped one, and you pass it over. So it's just like working a slip 1, knit 2 together, pass slip stitch over, but you're working it on brioche stitches. That's really the only difference. And that's how you work a deck 2L decrease. I'm now going to show you how to work a deck 2R decrease. This is a right leaning decrease in brioche knitting that decreases from 3 stitches down to 1. I've just worked a slip yarn over stitch, and I'm now ready to work the next stitch, which is on a column of dark coloured knit stitches, and it's a stitch on the needles with its yarn over. So I'm going to put the right needle tip into that stitch as if to knit, and I'm slipping it knitwise to the right needle tip. I'm then going to knit the next stitch on my needles as normal, and then I'm going to use my left needle tip to lift the slipped stitch and its yarn over the stitch I've just knitted. So there we've decreased 1 stitch. We're then going to move the stitch from the right needle tip back to the left needle tip. That's a purlwise slip. There's no twist or turn happening in the stitch. It's just being moved back. And then I'm going to use my right needle tip to pick up the next stitch on the needles and its yarn over, and I'm going to lift it over and off that knit stitch, and then I'm going to move that stitch back to the right needle tip. And you can see that the decrease then leans to the right and it consumes the purl column and the knit column behind it. This is at the end of the row, so you then just slip that final stitch because you're not working it. And you can see how that looks. I'll run you through it one more time. So I've worked the slip yarn over and I'm ready to work the next stitch. I slip that stitch knitwise to the right needle. I knit the next stitch. I pass the slip stitch and its yarn over the stitch I've just knitted. I move the stitch I've knitted back to the left needle and I pass the next stitch and its yarn over it. So you've taken one off from each side of it, and then I slip the stitch back onto the right needle to complete the decrease. I hope you now feel confident working both left and right leaning decreases in brioche stitch, and that you'll be able to use them in other projects in the future. If you'd like to find out more about Boost Your Knitting or the kits and yarns to go through with the book, then do click the link up here which will take you over to our website. And if you don't want to miss any of our future video tutorials, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jen AC Knitwear. Thanks ever so much for watching.